And there are then, of course, negative items. I think it's quite easy to recognize negative items. They almost inevitably begin with the letter N, the so-called N words like no, not, nothing, nowhere, nobody, neither, none, and so on. Whereas assertive and non-assertive items usually go in pairs. So the one that you in assertive contexts becomes its counterpart, its non-assertive counterpart in non-assertive contexts. For instance, if you say, I did it too, then if you want to negate it, you can't say, I didn't do it too. So too becomes or turns or changes into either, I didn't do it either. Or she has already arrived. You can't say she hasn't already arrived, but she hasn't arrived yet. Okay, so in a way, these are indicators of either assertion or non-assertion. It's just interesting to see that you don't have to have indicators of assertion. So sometimes it's quite clear that something is a positive declarative sentence. On the other hand, with non-assertive contexts, there must be clear indicators of non-assertion in order for you to be able to recognize that it's a non-assertive context. So something either has to be a question, or it has to be negated, or it has to contain one of these elements. The last thing I want to stress is that, for instance, a negative sentence doesn't have to be overtly negative, doesn't have to be conspicuously negative, doesn't have to be negative as soon as you look at it. We would say explicitly negative. It can also be implicitly negative or implicitly non-assertive. For instance, if you say, I can hardly see her, when you look at it, you don't immediately recognize that it's negative. However, hardly does have a negative connotation, and you can prove it by using a tag question of the opposite orientation, and this tag question will always be positive. So I can hardly see her, you would say, I can hardly see her. Can I or can you? Not can't I, okay? So this proves that hardly makes this first part of the sentence non-assertive. There are so a number of such items like hardly, barely, scarcely, seldom, okay? So all of them bear a certain kind of negative implication. Okay, so this would be the theoretical reminder or introduction. And now we can move on with these examples. So first we will do them, and then I will give you the solutions, because the solutions here are not actually done one by one, but you will have all of them at the end. So let's do all of them first together, and then they will appear on your screen as well, and you will have them always in your slides. Okay, so I hardly have any friends would be the first one. And the point is to label this sentence according to assertion as either assertive or non-assertive, and then identify, we will identify both the assertive and non-assertive elements. If assertive elements can be identified, you can circle them or underline them, whichever you prefer. And then at the end of the sentence, you can label it as either A, capital A, assertion, or NA, non-assertion. So that's the preferable way of doing it. Okay, is Sarah with us today? Sarah Samardzic.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Sarah. So I hardly have any friends, not a very positive sentence. So I'm trying to help you this way also. What is it? Is it assertive or non-assertive?
It's non-assertive.
Non-assertive, so NA, good. And where are the non-assertive items?
Hardly.
Uh-huh.
And any.
And any, good, fine. So circle or underline hardly any and label it as NA. So this is all you have to do in this exercise. Thank you. Do you have much work to do? We will ask Jovana Davidovic. Can Jovana maybe hear us? If not, then Mila Jovic.
Is that an assertive sentence?
Well, if you look at it, do you have much work to do? Okay, is it a question or is it just a statement? What do you think? Do you have much work to do?
A question.
Now, if you go back to that table that we've just analyzed, what did we say about interrogative forms? Interrogative,
Oh, right, they're non-assertive.
non-assertive. Okay, good. So
But it is a positive.
it's positive. Yes, it's interrogative and positive, but this combination, interrogative, positive, has to be labeled as NA, non-assertive, because as soon as something is interrogative, either interrogative or negative, or both, okay, it's enough for it to be labeled as NA, non-assertive. Okay, good. Now, where are the non-assertive items? Because these are the indicators that this is non-assertive.
Well, do you? That marks that it's an
Okay,
interrogative.
do, very good. So just circle do, because this is the operator that here actually enables this interrogative form. So do, and there is one.
Much.
Much, very good. Okay, because in the positive declarative form, in the assertive form, you would say, I have a lot of work to do, and then it would turn into much. It is its non-assertive counterpart. Do you have much work to do? I don't have much work to do. You wouldn't say, do you have a lot of work to do? Okay, so a lot of is somehow not that strictly, but it tends to be restricted to assertive contexts. Okay, good, thank you. The third one, nobody called, did they? Okay, Milica Petrovic, is she here? Can you hear us, Milica? Okay, if not, then Andrea Anojčić.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, is that Andrea?
Yes.
Okay, Andrea. So nobody called, did they?
Non-assertive.
Good. Non-assertive. There are two non-assertive items. Which ones?
Nobody and did.
And did. Very good. So nobody as a marker of negative orientation, and did as an indicator of tag question here. Good. Okay. Sentence D. Jovan Lazicic, is he here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
None of us have passed the exam yet.
Not a very optimistic state, but true, unfortunately, because we still haven't had the opportunity. Okay.
I believe this is a non-assertive sentence.
Yes.
And the non-assertive item here is none.
Okay, none, and there is one other non-assertive item. If you look at it more carefully,
Yet.
Yet. Very good. Okay, so you would not really use yet in assertive context. If you remember the example that I gave you with she has already arrived, and then if you want to negate it, you would say she hasn't arrived yet. Okay, so yet is somehow a marker of negative orientation and non-assertive sentences. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, Teodora Đurđević. Is Teodora here?
I'm here.
Okay, Teodora. So you have sentence E. If you need any help, please let me know.
Non-assertive.
This is non-assertive. Okay, good. What's the?
Any.
Any. Good. Any is the item. And I would just like to draw your attention to another interesting fact here. As soon as you see, we haven't mentioned it so far, as soon as you see a conditional structure, a conditional clause, znači ono što zovemo uslovna rečenica, if you need any help, should you need any help, the next one as well you will see. In all these cases, it is non-assertion, because the very fact that you are leaving an option for something to be or not to be the case points to the fact that you have non-assertion. So as soon as you see if you don't really need to circle it. It's not necessary. But if is also a kind of indicator of non-assertion. Okay, good. Thank you. Is Dunja Knežev here?
Yes.
Okay, Dunja. So the next one, unless you have anything more to say, the matter is closed.
Non-assertive.
Yes.
And anything.
Good. Anything. Now there is something again linked to this what I've just said, and it is really a non-assertive item. We will see why. Although,
Unless.
Very good. Unless, although at the surface level you can't really say that you see anything negative about it. But what is actually unless? How would you define unless? How would you? What would you replace it by? I mean, in other words, paraphrase this sentence, unless you have anything more to say. If you don't use unless, then you would use what? Try with if.
Maybe
Yeah, maybe if.
Try with if. If you?
If you don't have anything more to say.
Very good. Now, you see, if you use if you don't have anything more to say, then it becomes clear that what is hidden beneath this unless is actually if not. And if not is clearly non-assertive because it points to, of course, in addition to being a conditional, it is also negative, clearly negative. So unless is always a non-assertive item, then please circle it. Okay, good. Okay, Nicola, is Nicola here? Tomic Nicola. Maybe he had some problems with the microphone or something, if I remember well. Then Dushica Miladinov.
I'm here.
Okay, Dushice.
We still, that one.
Yeah. Okay.
We still have some food left.
Good.
Some.
And
it's assertive.
It's assertive. Good. And there is something else also.
Still.
In addition to some. Still, yes. Still and some. How would you make it negative, for instance, if you had this task to make this negative?
We don't have any food left.
But what would happen to still? You can't just eliminate it. You have to do something. It will not remain still, clearly, but we don't have any food left.
Any longer?
Very good. Any longer or any more? Okay. Which means and which proves that still behaves assertively here if it has to change in a non-assertive context. Okay. So this is assertion, and then you circle still and some. Good. The next one. Let's talk to Verica Kirchansky.
I'm here.
Hello, Verica. So you have sentence H.
She has already finished her thesis. This is assertion.
Good. Where is the assertive item?
Already.
Already, yes. How would you make it negative?
She hasn't finished her thesis yet.
Yet. Very good. So you see what becomes of already. And this proves that already is clearly an assertive item. Good. Thank you. Milivoj Popov, is he here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. So please, Milivoj, could you do the next one? And that is I.
I seldom go out with my friends. That is non-assertive.
Non-assertive. Good. Why?
Because it has a non-assertive item seldom.
Very good. Excellent. Okay, so seldom is one of those items which maybe when you look at them don't appear to be explicitly negative or explicitly non-assertive, but when you think of the implicit meaning, it does carry negative implications. Okay, good. Okay, Lalić Svetlana, is she here?
Tu sam.
Aha, oh, good, good. First I heard something like a crack, but then now I hear you. Okay, Lalić Svetlana. So the next one, and that's Jay.
Tom knows a lot about art. It's assertive.
It's assertive, good. Find the assertive item.
A lot.
A lot, yes. So if you want to make it negative, you would say Tom doesn't know much about art or doesn't know anything about art, but it's in any case it wouldn't remain a lot. Okay, good. So a lot is the assertive item. Okay, thank you. Is Dimoski Philip here?
Yes, I'm here. So you cannot park on either side of the road. I'd say that's non-assertive.
Non-assertive, good.
And you cannot, because it's a negative.
Cannot, you circle cannot. And what else?
Either, maybe.
Either, yes, very good. Cannot and either. Okay. By the way, how would you make it positive declarative? What would be the assertive opposite of this?
You can park on either side of the road.
But then it couldn't be either, you see? I mean, could be in one of the meanings, could be that. But if you want to make it completely opposite, then you would say you can park on both sides
of the road.
Yes, good. Okay, thank you. And the last one, let's talk to okay, Sergey Boyovich. Is Sergey here? Okay, does Sergey hear us? If not, then Jovan Čirić. If Jovan is not with us, then Marko Adžić.
Hello.
Hello, Marko. So the last one is yours.
Haven't you sent your I would say it's non-assertive.
It's non-assertive. It's non-assertive, yes.
Because of the item having. Application. I think so, yes, because of haven't.
Haven't, so it's non-assertive, you would circle haven't, okay? So it's, in this case, it's both interrogative and negative, so a double sign of a non-assertion. So you circle haven't. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Good. And this, believe it or not, so these are the solutions. Believe it or not, this marks the end of the first unit. And normally, this would also mark the end of what we have in the first test. But unfortunately for us, nothing is normal this year. So we will leave this. You know everything by now. And we will also leave some more materials on our website. We will upload everything that we promised. Now we are moving on, as it says here, level up. It's not really a level up, it's a unit up. And it, in a way, we move on with what we have done so far. Fortunately or unfortunately, whichever way you look at it, you can't simply erase or forget what we have done so far. Not just because you didn't have the test, but because you will really need everything we said in the next unit as well, and then in all the following units, because simply it's that kind of a course where everything is actually built upon the foundations that you had in the previous unit and in the previous units. Okay, so the second unit deals with the verb phrase, and this should be the topic and the content of your second midterm test, which hopefully will take place at some point. And if you look at the first exercise in this second unit, it actually belongs, in terms of the task that you are given, it belongs to the first unit. Now, why? Because although we have some new terminology here, like primary, auxiliary, and so on, we will mention it in just a few minutes. This actually is linked or related to the first class that we had in the first unit, and the first lesson actually, and it is the functions of the operators. I would like to remind you that the functions of the operators are given on page 17 in your workbook. So just very briefly, it's negative transformation, interrogative transformation, and then emphasis, question tags, and avoiding the repetition of the whole predication. So these are the 5 basic functions of the operator. In this exercise, you have to find the auxiliary do. So be careful. In some cases, do is the main or lexical verb here. In some other cases, everywhere, you will see where, there is also do as an auxiliary. So you find do as an auxiliary, you underline it, and then you state which of the 5 functions that I've just mentioned is actually the primary function of the auxiliary do in these examples. Okay, so let's do the first one. Okay, Danica, is Danica here? Danica Mitrovic?
I'm here.
Okay, Danica. So the first one is I didn't do any harm. So where is the do as an operator?
Didn't.
Very good. Okay, it's didn't. And what is its function? Of those 5 that I've listed. So you have, if it's easier for everyone, you can find them on page 17, the top of the page. They're listed. So negative transformation, interrogative transformation, emphasis, question tag, and avoiding the repetition of the predication.
It's negative transformation.
Negative transformation. Good. Okay, so here it is. Oh, sorry, here it is. So it's didn't, it's this part with did, and it's negative transformation. Okay, thank you. The next one, okay, is Luka with us, Luka Manojlovic.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Luka. So, B, do me a favor.
I think the auxiliary is the first one.
Very good. So there are 2 do's, but the first one is the operator, the auxiliary, yes?
And I think that's emphasis.
Emphasis, exactly. Okay, so you see, it's the first do and it's emphasis.
Profesorka, samo imam pitanje, na kojoj je to strani? Ili je to samo vaša vežba?
Ne, žao mi je ako nismo napisali gore. So it's page 51, exercise 1. It's the first exercise in the VP unit. So once again, 51, exercise 51. Sorry, page 51, exercise 1.
Thank you.
Thank you for reminding me. I forgot to tell you. Okay, all of you. So it's exercise 1, page 51. Okay, see, Mara. Is Mara here? Gvozdenovic? If Mara can't hear us, then Branislava Vujanic. If she's not here, right? Who's that? No one? Jovana Popovic?
I'm here.
Okay, Jovana, thank you. So what about...
Branislavi ne radi mikrofon, kad smo već kod toga.
Dobro, evo pišem, onda je sve u redu, žao mi ako je to problem. Dobro. So Jovana, C.
I smoke and so does my husband. Verbal proform.
Good.
Avoiding repetition, maybe.
So does here is the auxiliary. It's a verbal proform at the same time. Very good. and the function is avoiding repetition of the predication instead of saying I smoke and my husband smokes as well. Okay, good, thank you. Okay, the next one, D. Bojan Stankovic.
I'm here.
Okay, Bojane.
I'd say maybe have.
Do you have any children? Okay, the point is that you find do and tell us.
Do. Oh, sorry.
Uh-huh.
Then it's at the beginning, I guess.
Yes, so that's the auxiliary do, and what is its function of those 5 functions?
Interrogative.
Interrogative, very good. Interrogative transformation. Thank you. Okay, is Alexandra here? Ungur Alexandra. If not, then Angela Jankovic. Angela, can Angela hear us? And Vladimir Jovic?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Vladimir, trust him, he does love you.
Does?
Good.
It's emphasis, I think.
Excellent. So it not only you wouldn't just say he loves you, but he does love you. Good. Georgievich Alexander, is he here? Georgievich?
Yes.
Okay, Alexandre. Do stop it. You know I hate when you do that, don't you? Many do's here, but which of them are auxiliaries?
Do stop it, the first one.
Okay, the first one. And what's the function?
On what page are the meanings?
Page 17, up there, the second line on page 17. You have the function.
Just 1 second. Right.
Do stop it. So it's not just stop it, but do stop it. So it's obviously not negative transformation. It's not interrogative.
Assertive.
It's emphasis. You emphasize.
Emphasis.
So you not only stop it, but you do stop it. Okay. What else? Where is the other auxiliary here? Let's go back to page.
You do that.
But is that an auxiliary? So that is.
Don't you?
Don't you? Good. So this last do is an auxiliary again. The second one is the main verb. So what is now the function? Don't you? Again, those 5 are listed on page 17 up there where it says functions of the operator, 5 functions. So don't you? Sorry?
I don't know. I can't find it.
So page 17, top of the page, it says functions of the operator.
Negative transformation.
Se da li ovo negative? Dobro. Jeste u smislu da je u pravu ste, ima negative element, don't you? But both. What do you call this short question at the end of a sentence, like I can hardly see him, can I? Or you do like this, don't you? What do we call this short question at the end?
Emphasis.
This is not emphasis. The previous one was emphasis. This is called a question tag or a tag. So question tag or tag questions, whichever you prefer, are short forms at the end of a sentence which have the opposite orientation in comparison to the rest of the sentence. Okay, that's it. So do stop it was emphasis, and don't you was a question tag. Thank you. And we will move on to the second one, but before that, I would just ask you, all of you who have your workbooks, just a few words, although you did this with Sasha last week, but just a few words about auxiliaries and main verbs. This is on page 30. So page 30 in your workbooks, it says classes of verbs. By the way, something that we have mentioned many times since the beginning of this course. However, now for the first time, really theoretically. So classes of verbs are the two basic main classes of verbs are lexical or full or main verbs, like as it says here, play, go, and work. They carry a certain meaning and they are always the head of the verb phrase. And then there are auxiliary verbs. In Serbian, we call them pomoćni glagoli. Pomoćni or auxiliary means that they somehow help or aid the main verb. We will see how in this unit. There are primary auxiliaries and there are modal auxiliaries. Primary auxiliaries are be, have, and do when they are used as auxiliaries at all. So be careful, all these three verbs, be, have, and do, can be either lexical main verbs or auxiliaries. But we are now dealing with situations when they are auxiliaries. For instance, she is swimming. Swimming is the main verb, lexical verb, is the auxiliary be in this case. Oh, like what we did now, she does have enough time for me. She does have, you see. In this case, do is an auxiliary. Have is, in this case, the main verb. So you always have to be careful in that very sentence, in that very context, which verbs are auxiliary and main verbs. Modal auxiliaries, on the other hand, we call them modal verbs. They are inevitably auxiliaries, can, may, shall, will, could, might, and so on. You can always check it very easily. How? You have to have another verb after, for instance, may, or after should. So there is no such sentence as she should in the park. What? She should be walking in the park or whatever. Or for instance, he might in the garden. He might be in the garden. So there has to be another main verb after, another verb after modal verbs, which proves that they are always auxiliaries. There are just two exceptions. The last two verbs, need and dare. They're called marginal modals because they behave somewhat differently. They can be either auxiliaries or main or lexical verbs. I think I gave you many examples already, but okay, let's find one with need. For instance, I need a cigarette. I need a cigarette. Okay, in this case, need is the main or lexical verb. But if you say you needn't have come, it's clear that need is an auxiliary. So basically that's it. There are lexical verbs, there are auxiliaries. Within auxiliaries, there are primary auxiliaries and there are modals. So nothing more to add to this. And this is actually the essence of the second exercise. So once again, page 51, exercise 2. And this is what you have on the screen. Determine the verb class of the underlined verbs and their function in the VP. So what you need to do is, now you have them already underlined. So you'll have to say what are is. Is it an auxiliary? Is it a main verb? What kind of an auxiliary, and so on. And what's playing here. And that's it. Okay, Ognjen Pajić, is he here? Ognjen? No. Then Zorić, is he here? Okay, if not, we haven't contacted Tamara Ristic.
I'm here.
Okay, Tamara, good. So Tamara, if you look at the first one, the boys are playing football. So what is are?
I believe it's primary auxiliary.
Very good. So it is an auxiliary. It's primary auxiliary. Yes. In this case, functioning as an operator. You see, because this is the only auxiliary, so it has to be the operator.
Yeah.
Primary auxiliary operator. What's playing?
Lexical verb.
Lexical verb and head of this VP. So head of the phrase, playing lexical verb. Very good. Thank you. Has maybe Sergey joined us in the meantime? Okay, if not, then let's go back to Sara Samardzic.
R is lexical verb.
In this case, it's the very good. How do you know that it's the lexical verb here?
Well, it's the only verb, so.
Yes, if it's the only one, there is no other option. It can't be an auxiliary because it doesn't help any other verb. It is on its own. So this is the lexical verb here, and at the same time, it is the head of the VP. Okay, very good. Thank you. Milica Petrović.
Profesorka Milici ne radi mikrofon.
Isto dobro, žao mi je. Dobro. Okay, Mila Jović.
I'd say might be is an auxiliary.
Okay, good. It's just that you have to label them separately.
Oh, okay.
So, might
auxiliary. Might is a modal auxiliary.
Good. Might modal auxiliary.
B is primary auxiliary.
Good. Okay.
And playing is lexical verb.
Okay, very good. And which of these is then the operator? If you remember.
B.
Is it B? Would you say they might be not playing football? Or if you want to ask a question, be they might playing football? Okay.
Might then.
So the operator is always the first auxiliary. So if there is just one auxiliary, then it's easy. It is at the same time the operator. But if there are more auxiliaries, it has to be the first auxiliary. So the first auxiliary is the operator. Sorry, I forgot to add the solutions here, but it's what we have just said. So might modal auxiliary be primary auxiliary, and at the same time, might at the same time is the operator, and then playing is the lexical verb or the head verb, the head word. Good, thank you. Okay, Dunja Knežev.
Yes.
Dunja. They don't dare to do a parachute jump. Okay, this one is a bit more difficult, but it will be very. Let me just help you with two things. With one thing first. So this is the only one here, the only sentence in which there are two VPs, two verb phrases. What do you think? Where is the first verb phrase and where is the second verb phrase?
There and do.
Don't dare is the first VP, and to do is the second VP. Okay, how do we know this? Because a VP is determined by one main or lexical verb. If there are two main verbs here, and obviously there are, the first one is there, the other one is do, so then it means that they carry two VPs. You can't have one VP with more than one main verb inside, okay? And how would you know this? Now we have to go back to what we know from Unit 1. So if you divide this in terms of Sforza, they would be the subject. Don't dare would be the verb. They don't dare what? To do a parachute jump. The whole remaining part is the direct object, you see? And with this direct object is actually one clause. It contains a VP, to do. So it proves that to do is separate from don't dare. It's not within one structure. It's not within one unit. Okay, so don't dare. Let's look at this first VP. Where is the head of the VP?
There.
There. Okay, good. There is the head, and at the same time, if it's the head, it's the lexical or main
Yes.
verb. What about don't?
It's an auxiliary.
It's an auxiliary. Which category class?
Primary.
Primary auxiliary. Good. And at the same time, you see immediately it already has this negative element, not. So what does it do? I mean, what's its function as well? If it's the only auxiliary.
It's an operator.
Operator, very good. So there is the head, the lexical verb. Don't is, or do here with this not is an operator, primary auxiliary. Good. And now if we look at the second VP, to do, we don't have an auxiliary here. We don't treat to as an auxiliary, by the way. It's just what we call an infinitival particle. So do is the only verb here, and if it's the only, it is
lexical.
Lexical or main, and it is the head of the phrase. Okay, good. Thank you. Has maybe Jovana joined us in the meantime? Jovana Davidović. If not, then Teodora Đorđević.
Profesorka,
Kažite.
meni samo Anđela Janković rekla da njoj mikrofon ne radi, pa i ovako je internet loš, pa jedva i čuje predavanje.
Dobro, žao mi je. Evo sad ćemo staviti pod Anđele napomenu. Dobro. Sve ćete posle imati i sa gotovim rešenjima, neka se ne brinu oni koji me ne čuju najbolje, ali eto šta da radimo. Ok. Onda da vidimo Teodora Đorđević.
I'm here.
Teodora.
You
Sorry.
needn't wait any longer. Needn't is modal auxiliary verb.
Modal auxiliary, excellent.
And wait is lexical verb.
Wait is the lexical verb. What's the head of the phrase then?
Wait.
Wait. Excellent. So need here is the modal auxiliary, and at the same time, you see already it does something with not. So at the same time, if it's the only auxiliary, like don't. It's
the operator.
Operator, excellent. So needn't is the modal auxiliary functioning as the operator, and wait is the lexical verb and the head of the phrase. Good. And the last one. Okay, Jovan Lazičić.
The flight must have been cancelled.
Let's start from the head of the phrase. Where is the head? What's the, let's say, main verb?
Have.
Is it have? Is it really the main verb? I mean, would you say that
cancelled?
Cancelled. So it is the carrier of the meaning. It is actually the main or lexical verb. It is the verb which all other verbs somehow just help or aid. Okay, so cancelled is the main verb or the head of the phrase. What about must have and been? What are they then? If cancelled is the main verb.
Auxiliary verbs.
Auxiliaries, good. They're auxiliaries.
Must
what
is a modal auxiliary.
Excellent.
Have is the primary one. Been is also primary.
Also primary, excellent. So modal auxiliary plus primary plus primary. Very good. And now which of them would be the operator if you needed an operator here? I mean, which one would you use for negation, questions, tag questions, emphasis, whatever? Which one would be the operator? What did we say? If there are more of them, which one is the operator?
Primary.
Well, it's not really about whether it's primary or not, but it's
have.
It is about. Is it have? Would you say have the flight must been cancelled?
Must.
It's must. So once again, the operator is always either the only auxiliary, or if there are more of them, it is the first auxiliary. So must the flight have been cancelled? The flight mustn't have been cancelled, and so on. Okay, good. So we need cancel. So cancelled is the head, the lexical verb, and then must is the operator. Thank you. And now we have quite a long exercise, the third one. You'll see if you have your workbooks there, it actually stretches across two pages. But it's really a very useful exercise, and you will inevitably need these forms of the verbal paradigm, both in your spoken and written language, in your essays, in your presentations, wherever. So you need to know the verbal paradigm correctly. Just again, a few sentences of introduction. So on page 31 in your workbooks, there is an overview of the verbal paradigm. Paradigm, mind you, means just all the forms that one word can have. There is what we call a nominal paradigm for nouns. There is a verbal paradigm for verbs, adjectival paradigm for adjectives, and so on. The same situation in Serbian, for those of you who remember Serbian grammar, we call it paradigma, imenička paradigma, glagolska paradigma, pridevska paradigma. Recimo, imenička paradigma, pa onda imate imenicu, ne znam, devojka. To bi značilo svi postojeći oblici pravilni reči devojka koju menjate po padežima, po broju, dakle devojka, devojke, devojci, devojku, devojko, sa devojkom o devojci i tako dalje, pa sad sve to opet u množini i slično. To je paradigma reči devojka.
Profesorka,
kažite.
Oprostite, koje je suštinsko značenje reči paradigma? Pošto susreće se ne samo u gramatici. Znam da sam čitao izvesne knjige u kojima se pominje, tako da bih voleo da znam što znači.
Gramatici je, u jeziku je ovo manje više što sam vam rekla. Dakle, odnosi se na sve oblike određenog glavnog ili apstraktnog pojma. Odnosno, uvek paradigma vam daje mogućnost da kažete ili, ne ovaj oblik, nego onaj oblik. A što se tiče paradigme, kao što ste rekli, recimo u društvenim naukama, sociologiji, kad kažete, recimo, po ovoj paradigmi, ne znam, socijalizam je bio poželjan društveni poredak ili tako nešto. Dakle, to se odnosi više na neki model ili na neku šemu ili na neku, kako da kažem, ono što bismo zvali pattern na engleskom, po kome se odvija neki proces u društvu.
Možda obrazac.
Obrazac je dobro. Recimo, ako uzmete, evo, ako society's paradigm ne znam, of an ideal husband. Eto, šta bi bila paradigma određena društvena paradigma u nekom društvu, šta se podrazumeva pod ideal husband, na primjer. Eto, sad to mi je palo na pamet.
Hvala vam, profesorka.
Molim, da zato što se husband motao uda. Niko nije ideal, pa ni on, ali dobro, blizu je. Ok, you're welcome. Good. So, if you look then at page 31, the verbal paradigm, there are 5 elements of the verbal paradigm, 5 forms that the verb can take in the English language. So if you look at it, there is what we call the base form, and it's that form that you will find as dictionary entries. The example here is speak. And it will be used, as you can see, to form the infinitive, the present tense, the imperative, and something that's called the present subjunctive, but we will do that next time. Then there is something that is called the, let me decipher this, 3PSPT, za malo pa posttraumatski stresni sindrom, ali nije to. So, third person singular present tense form, that's the S form. that's quite restricted in use, and it's only used, as you can see, for the third person singular simple present tense. Then there is something that we call the past tense form, spoke. To je ono što ste svi popularno zvali druga kolona. Molim vas da sad nekako te kolone malo zaboravimo. To je malkice onako prelaki, prejednostavan i neformalan način za element glagolske paradigme. So past tense form, we also call it the VED1 form, spoke in this case. Then comes the present participle, or we also call it the VING participle, or the VING form, speaking in this case. It has various uses. It's used for the progressive aspect. When you see the progressive aspect, it's actually what you used to call in primary and secondary school continuous. So that was what when you said present continuous, past continuous, future continuous. These are all cases when you have to use the present participle. So I am speaking, you were speaking, he will be speaking, and so on. Then it has what is called adjectival use. Adjectival use only means that it is used in the position and function of adjectives, like, for instance, an exhausting trip. Exhausting, you see, it is a verbal form, but it is used as an adjective. Then there are non-finite clauses, like, for instance, I don't know, walking in the garden, I met a friend of mine. So walking in the garden. In Serbian, we would replace it by what we call glagolski prilog sadašnji, nadam se da se sećate, šetajući se po bašti, ili recimo trčeći pored reke, spavajući na kauču. That's what we call glagolski prilog sadašnji. And basically, these are the uses of the present participle. Finally, the past participle, and that's what you used to call treća kolona in school, I guess. It's used for the perfect aspect. So unlike in the previous case, the progressive aspect, the perfect aspect is what you form with the auxiliary verb have. So you have the present perfect, the past perfect, the future perfect. For instance, I have seen you already. So have plus seen. You see, seen is the past participle. Then it's used for the passive voice. He was hidden in the garden, and so on. It has again adjectival use. For instance, let me think of an example. A forgotten secret, a forgotten secret. So you see, forgotten here is not used verbally, but adjectivally, although it's a verbal form. And finally, again, it's used. It can be used as a non-finite clause. For instance, left in the corner, the child was crying. Left in the corner. Zaboravljeno u ćošku, dete je plakalo. Sad, šta bi to bilo u srpskom? Malo prije smo rekli da je onaj present participle je glagolski prilog sadašnji, a ovo zaboravljeno u uglu bi bilo nešto što mi zovemo glagolski pridev trpni. Ako se sećate, zaboravljen, zaboravljena, zaboravljeno, ili ne znam, pregledan, pregledana, pregledano, ili recimo sa nastavkom t, zadat, zadata, zadato. Okay, to su bili čuveni oni nastavci, mi smo ih bar tako učili, na, no, ni, ne, na, i t, ta, to, ti, te, ta. Sad, dakle, to je ono što je past participle. So these five forms, base form, third person singular, past tense, present participle, and past participle, they form the verbal paradigm. Each and every verbal paradigm has to contain 5 forms, even though it might appear sometimes that there are fewer of them. For instance, if you take the verb cut and try to look at the verbal paradigm, so first base form cut, third person cuts, past tense cut again, present participle cutting, and past participle cut. So it's actually cut, cuts, cut, cutting, cut. And 3 of them appear to be the same, cut, cut, cut. But it doesn't mean that the verbal paradigm of cut contains fewer forms. It only means that 3 of them are realized in the same way. Still, you have to list all 5 of them if you wish to have a full verbal paradigm. A kind of exception would be the verb be. It has more than 5 forms, it's obvious. The base form is, of course, be. and then you have something not only for the third person singular, but for the other two persons as well. So it's am, are, is, and then it's was or were, again, two forms in the plural, then being, and then been. So it's the only exception with more than 5. So there are 8 forms with be. Why is this important? First of all, it's important for your test when you are given, and you will be given a very long task with 12 verbs to list the verbal paradigm of each verb. It's important because it's not only the 3 forms that you have to list now, the 3 that you used to list, prva, druga, treća kolona. Actually, each and every verb is defined, fully defined by its 5 forms and not 3 forms. And it's really true if you open any kind of good comprehensive dictionary, monolingual dictionary of English, you will always see information, pieces of information about each of these 5 forms, not only 3 forms. You will see what happens if you add the ing form. You will see what happens, maybe not in the third person singular because it's quite obvious, but it's actually the 5 forms that define the verb and not the 3 forms that we have mentioned so far. Okay, now if you look at the exercise, and that is exercise 3 on page 51, it is at least where it begins. And it is the exercise that you have on your screen as well. So write the paradigms of the following verbs. The first one is be, and that's, I'm not going to say more about it. Actually, we are not going to do it. We will do it together because I have just mentioned it. So be is an exception. Has be, then MR is, was, were, being, and been. But you can group all these into these 5 categories, actually. It's just that there are variations in some of the categories. In the third person singular present tense, it's not just the third person, and in the past tense form. So the next one is, I will have to ask you to either look at the workbooks or listen to me carefully, because you will immediately have the solutions if I give you the next one. But okay, so you either look on page 51, or I will always give you the verb itself. So, Dušica Miladinov, is she here?
I'm here.
Okay, Dušica, good. So what about the next one? It's raise.
Well, the first one we have to do with the infinitive form, right?
Yes, and it's the same
one. Okay.
Raise.
Then raises.
Raises.
Then
raised. Okay, so it's a regular verb. With regular verbs, you just add the ed ending. Raised.
Rose. Rising.
Rising ide sad, znači sad ide VING. Morate uvijek pratiti onaj redosled od malo pre onih 5. VING is rising, and what's the past participle form?
Rose.
Is it? With nije rise ćemo tek imati, ovo je raise. So raise, raises, raised, raising, and then again, because it's a regular verb.
Risen.
It's a regular verb, okay? With regular verbs, you just add the, So again, raised.
Raised.
Drugim rečima, ako biste imali, znam da vam je sad teško da umećete nešto između onih kolona, ako biste imali one 3 kolone, bilo raise, raised, raised, okay? Simply a regular verb, okay? These are the solutions. It's just that you have to be careful to insert 2 other forms as well. The third person singular, you see raises, and raising in between the past tense form and the past participle. Okay, thank you. Filip Dimoski.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Filip. Now you have rise, not raise, but rise.
Yeah, so it's rise, rises.
Okay.
Rose.
Yes.
Rising and risen.
Risen, excellent. Okay, so here it is on the screen. Rise, rises, rose, rising, risen, yes. And I will just add a kind of digression here. Anything that has this root or this base, like arise, for instance, the verb arise, would behave the same way. Arise, arises, arose, arising, arisen. Okay, so that's why it's important to know the paradigm of the base, the root, for those verbs which have some other elements as well. Okay, thank you. And now comes something that I guess all of you hate. I have always hated the lie, lay thing. So lay is the next one, and we will contact okay, Lalić Svetlana.
Evo me.
Okay, Svetlana. You have the honor of lay.
Oh.
Da, baš sam vas uspjela. Nemojte se sekirati, razrešit ćemo zajedno. Dakle, lay, ona lay kao hen lay eggs.
Lay. Lies.
Dobro, lays. Ostaje za treće person, you just add L-A-Y-S.
Laying.
Sad pazite, sad imate prvo past tense.
Nisam čula.
Prvo imate past tense.
Aha.
Ona tako zvana
laid.
Laid, okay. How do you spell laid?
L-A.
This is where L-A-I-D, that's laid. And then comes what you said, laying. Okay, then comes laying. Just add ing. And what's the last form?
Kao past.
And the same, yeah, laid, again, laid. Okay. So lay, laid, laid, laid. It's used, as I said, for poultry. So hens lay eggs, or you lay, for instance, another example, you lay your coat on the table. Dakle, to je ili leći, u smislu kokoške ležu jaja, ili je položiti, tipa položila sam, ne znam, kaput na sto, položila sam stolnjak na sto i tako dalje. So lay, lays, laid, laying, laid. I have a suggestion. You make a kind of poster or whatever and stare at it every day for a few minutes. Lay and lie, and then it will all somehow you will memorize it in the end. Okay, the next one is lie, but lie can be either a regular verb or an irregular verb. What if lie is a regular verb? Then it means not tell the truth. And we will ask Milivoj Popov.
Yeah, I'm here.
Milivoj, what would be the paradigm of lie if it is a regular verb and means not tell the truth?
Lie. Lies.
Okay.
Lied. Lying.
Okay, how do you spell lying?
L-Y-I-N-G.
Good. And the last one is again?
Lied.
Lied. Very good. Okay, this is lying, not telling the truth, and it's a regular verb. Just be careful, as you said, with the ing form, there is a change in spelling into ly. Thank you. Verica Kirčanski, can you please do the next lie, which is an irregular verb, meaning to be in a horizontal position on a bed, for instance?
I can try.
Okay.
So it'll be again lie.
Yes, the first two are again the same. Lie, lies.
Yeah, lie, lies. Late.
Lay, good. How do you spell it?
L-A... Hold on. L-A-I-D?
To nije sa taj laid, nego je lay, pazite, lay bez D. Lay. He lay on the bed. L-A-Y, just L-A-Y, like the infinitive form of the previous one, you see.
Oh, I get it.
Then the ing is again?
Laying.
Pazite, nije laying, lying.
Dakle, lying.
Morate uvijek imati ovu infinitivnu osnovu, so lying. And now comes the last form, and this is something different. Lie, lay, i šta je onaj, da kažem, treći oblik? Lane. Evo ga. So, lie, lies, lay, lying, lane. Ne želim da vas maltretiram, ali pre ili kasnije će vas ovo sustići i treba će vam. Ovo su jako česti glagoli. Tako da znate, na testu će uvek, ali uvek damo jedan od ova tri. Znači, oni su inevitable. Pa probajte nekako da ih naučite i zapamtite jer su jako česti. Okay, good. Unlike the next one, which is not really very frequent, but it is interesting for some reason. We will see which reason. Okay, Luka Manojlović.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Luka, I hear you. It's excellent. So die, but die spelled as D-Y-E.
Yeah, okay. So die.
Yes.
Then dies. D-Y-E-S.
Very good. D-Y-E-S. D-Y-E-S. Okay.
Then D-Y-E-D.
Yes, died. Good.
Died. Yeah. On the D-Y, dying, like D-Y-E-I-N-G.
Excellent, excellent. So don't forget the E here. D-Y-E-I-N-G. And the last one is?
Is also died.
Is also died. Very, very good. Now, what does it mean, Luka?
Like here. I mean, dyeing your hair.
Yes,
or
so
something
applying color to either your hair or maybe some clothes or fabric or something like that, but nothing else. It's very restricted in its use. So it's not really widely used as, for instance, paint. The verb paint is has a much wider scope of use. Dye is restricted to either dyeing your hair or dyeing a piece of cloth or fabric. But it's very important that you remember that it's spelled differently from dying, like ceasing to exist, not being alive anymore, which is another kind of, let's say, regular verb. But what about die? Luka, if you are still here, how would you spell die in the ing form, but the other verb die? Like she's dying in
ing form. Okay. Without E.
Without E, it would just be dying, D-Y-I-N-G, and that's the crucial difference actually here. Of course, the other forms as well, where you have I, but this ing is usually the biggest obstacle for spelling. Okay, thank you. Thank you. The next one is sing, and we will ask Mara if she has joined us in the meantime. Mara Gvozdenović, is she here? If she's not, then Tamara Ristic.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Tamara. So sing. This is something that you probably learned a long time ago. Sing.
Sing, sings.
Singed.
Singing.
Čekajte. Sing.
Oops.
Sing, sings. Sang, okay.
Singing. Is sung.
Sung, okay. So sing, sings, sang, singing, sung. Malo više liči na neki daleko istočni jezik nego na engleski, naročito kad uzmete ona tri oblika sing, sang, sang. Ali eto tako, to je nepravilan glagol. Okay, so bear in mind the fact that it's irregular. But the next one is more interesting. It's singe. It's not sing anymore. It's singe. Okay, is Bojan here? Bojan Stankovic?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, do you have any idea? I'm not criticizing you if you don't, because it's a verb that's very, very rarely used. Do you know the meaning of singe?
I have no clue.
Okay, now if you open any bilingual dictionary and look up the word singe, you will find the translations oprljiti ili osmuditi. Nisam sigurna da znate, većina vas je uopšte šta i na srpskom znači oprljiti ili osmuditi. But singe is when you burn something slightly, especially, for example, your beard or your nails, either with a cigarette, for instance, or with a flame, a small flame or something. Dakle, to znači oprljiti ili osmuditi. E sad, nije nam uopšte bitan što se tiče značenja, jedva ćete ga ikad i koristiti, ako ga uopšte koristite, ali nam je bitan za ovu paradigmu. So what happens with singe? What do you think?
I guess the base form is singe. Then
Yes.
singes. Singed.
Yes, it's regular.
And singeing.
How do you spell it? Now that's interesting. How do you spell it?
Singeing.
E-I-N-G, like the example that Luca had a few seconds ago with dying, you have to retain the E. Otherwise, if you leave out the E, then it would be actually the same as singing, and then you wouldn't know the difference. So singeing, and the last one is?
Singed.
Singed again. So singed, singeing, singed. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, let's try to contact. Let me ask Alexander Đorđević.
Here.
Okay, Alexandre. Occur. What happens with occur?
Occurs.
Okay.
Occurred.
Occurring.
Occurred.
Okay, now that all sounds fine and is quite actually simple because it's a regular verb. However, there is a change in spelling in the last three forms, in occurred, occurring, and occurred. Do you know what happened?
Double R.
Double R. Okay, double C remains, of course. So it's spelled O-C-C-U and then double R-E-D. And in the ing form, double R-E-N-I-N-G. Okay, thank you. Now, let me just help you. You are maybe wondering how you would know that you need to double the final consonant. There is actually a very simple rule, and it always works. If you look at the verb occur, it consists of two syllables. Occur, syllables su slogovi. So there are two syllables. Now, which one is the stressed syllable, naglašeni slog? Of course, the second one, you wouldn't say occur, but occur. So you look at the stressed syllable, that's cur, and then you look at how the stressed syllable is spelt. Look at the vowel, samoglasnik, look at the vowel in the stressed syllable. If it is just spelt with a single letter, like here, you see the letter U, occur. So if these two criteria are met, that it is spelled with a single letter and that it is stressed, that the last one is the stressed syllable, then it means that you have to double the final consonant. We will have more examples of the kind, so you will memorize this rule. But for now on, just try to pronounce it always. So when you pronounce it, if the stress is on the last syllable, and if this last syllable contains one letter where the vowel should be, so in this case it's the letter U, then you have to you have to double the final syllable. Let's see what happens in the next one, and let's try to apply this rule. Vladimir Jović.
Yes.
So let's try to solve permit.
Permit. Okay, the base form is permit. Then permits. Permitted. Permitting.
Yes.
And
And again.
Permitted.
Yes. Now, do you have the doubling of the final syllable T? Oh, sorry, final letter T.
Yes.
Yes, very good. So it's permitted, double T, permitting, permitted. Why? Once again, how do you pronounce permit? Is the stress on the first or on the second syllable?
On the second, I think.
On the second, yes. You don't say permit, which is another thing. It's a noun, permit je dozvola. So you don't say, you say permit. And look at how it is spelled, this second syllable, mit. Is there one letter or more letters which is in the place of the vowel?
One.
One, just one. So both criteria are met. There is one letter in the vowel and the last syllable is stressed. In such case, you have to double the final letter. And that's what happened here. Good. Thank you. Is Jelena Kurilic with us today, maybe? She didn't attend these online classes, so from the beginning, I think, so that's why I'm asking. If not, then Jovana Popovic.
I'm here.
Jovana, good. Now, panic.
First is panic. Then panics.
Yes.
Panicked.
Yes.
Panicking. And panic again.
Okay. Is there anything interesting or anything that happened in the last three forms? Panicked, panic.
You add the letter K.
Where do you add the K?
After C.
After C. Okay, so here it is. Panic, panics, panicked, panicking, panicked. This is interesting, and it happens in a very, very few cases, really. For instance, with traffic, the verb traffic, traffic, traffics, trafficked, trafficking, trafficked, traffic in the sense illegally smuggle or illegally carry something over the border. Dakle, danas znate da imamo reč trafficking, ne znaju ljudi uopšte ni šta je to. Ja sam sprovodila neko istraživanje, pa su polovina je mislila da trafficking nešto u vezi s trafikom, kao trafika gde kupujete novine i cigarete. Dakle, trafficking je dakle, šverc, odnosno švercovanje, odnosno prenošenje ilegalno, uglavnom danas, nažalost, belog groblja ljudi, dakle, i slično. Ali traffic, isto će vam se to desiti sa traffic. Okay, thank you. A very easy one, the next one. Let's ask, okay, Marko Adžić. Boil.
Okay. Just a second. Boil. So the infinitive or the base form of the verb boil is boil. Second thing, whatever it is, I memorize it.
Boils.
The one is boiled.
Boiled, yes.
Or B-O-I-L-E-D.
Yes.
One is boiling.
Boiling.
And the last one is
boiled again.
And
regular.
It is regular, and I am. I'm in a. We say this. Should I put a double L at the end?
So nothing happens actually because it's a monosyllabic verb. You see, so you can't even divide it into syllables. Boil is just one syllable, so there is no need for doubling anywhere. Okay, thank you. However, something happens with cancel, and let's ask: is Nikola Tomić here?
Profesorka, moguće je da mu mikrofon ne radi. Već se dešavalo.
Dobro. Onda da vidimo. Jovan Ćirić, je li tu možda u međuvremenu? A Jovana Banjanin?
I'm here.
Ok, Jovana. So what about cancel?
Well, we have cancel, cancels, cancelled with a double L, canceling, and cancelled all with double L's as well.
Very good. So cancel, cancels, cancelled, cancelling, cancelled. The last three forms have double L at the end. Now, this is not really connected to the rule that I mentioned. It is just like a kind of separate rule. If it ends in L, like travel, cancel, signal, and so on, there is this doubling of the final consonant, the final letter, but only in British English. In American English, they would spell this like cancelled, just ed, cancelling with one L, cancelled with one L. The same, they would do the same with travel, with signal, and so on. So remember that this only refers to British English, this final L, and it is doubled in British English. And the last example, because I have to hand over my equipment to my husband and to group B. The second one is, the next one is regret. So we regret that our class has come to an end, and we will contact, is there anyone that I haven't contacted? That's my fault, if it's the case. Okay, if not, then Ognjen Pajic. Is Ognjen here? Okay, if not, then Danica Mitrovic. This is the last one, regret.
Regret, regrets, regretted, regretted, and regretted again.
Okay, is there doubling of anything?
Yeah, the letter T.
Okay, the last three forms, regretted, regretting, and regretted, have doubling of the final T. Now, again, apply the rule. How do you pronounce regret? Where is the stress, the first or the second syllable?
The second syllable.
Second, it's not regret, but it's regret, you see? And again, there is one letter for the vowel, gret, you see? And it matches actually the rule that when you have to double the final consonant. Okay, so please do the rest from N to T. Try to do it at home, and we will, of course, look at them next time as well. And then we will move on with this unit. So thank you very much for your attention. We'll have to wrap up this class now. And so see you and hear you next Tuesday. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.